Again, that's 1-888-622-1816.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Have you ever heard that success leaves clues? You probably have heard that, right?
Yes, I have.
And so when you know success leaves clues, what does that tell you? That tells you, well, if you're trying to be successful at something, you might want to talk to somebody else who's already done that thing, and maybe they'll help you out. Or maybe you can just study what they did. Maybe you don't even need to speak to them. Or maybe they wrote a book about what they did. Shawn Burcham is on the phone. He's the founder and CEO of PFS Brands, and he's written a book called Keeping Score with GRITT. I think GRITT is an acronym for something. We'll find out what that means. This is one of those books that will help you understand how somebody else became successful. Shawn is that person. He started PFS, which is Pro Food Systems, by the way. PFS. So let's find out about this and how the book can help us. Good morning, Shawn. Thank you for calling in today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Where are you?
Pleasure to be on the... Yeah, we are in Missouri, so I'm right in the state capital of Missouri, Jefferson City.
All right. Well,
Nice.
how's the weather there today?
And we are sunny and should be about 85 degrees today, and the humidity is not as bad as it has been, so it's going to be a beautiful day here.
So how far back is the beginning for Pro Food Systems anyway? Or was there something before that needs to be talked about?
No, I started the company right before I was 28 years old, so just had a couple previous jobs before that. Was fortunate to have a couple good jobs, but just always had a desire to do something on my own. So jumped into the entrepreneurial world. I like to tell the story that my wife and I both had decided that she would stay home with her kids. So we had our first kid just before we started the business, so she decided she was staying home, and I decided to quit my job, so we went from a double income, no kid family to a one kid, no income family.
Wow.
No.
Overnight. So it was quite a struggle back there.
What did you have in place that made you confident you could do that?
Just a work ethic, to be honest with you. It was something that we believed in. I understood the business that I was getting into, had a good distributorship or equipment supplier put in place, and honestly, it was just a drive to be my own boss and do something on my own. It was just an internal drive that I probably had since the age of 14 when I started a lawn mowing business. So
Okay.
just always had a desire to do that.
So you've always been an entrepreneur. If you had a lawn mowing business, like a lot of us have had that, but we don't necessarily consider ourselves entrepreneurs. But we had everything we needed to begin heading in that direction, and you actually took hold of the reins, so to speak, and went with it full force.
Yeah, I think looking back and being kind of interested in Colby assessments and Gallup strength finders and things like that, I just know that I'm a risk taker by nature. Recognize you got to spend money to make money. Just have that tolerance of risk and tolerance of failure, which we'll talk a little bit about in that GRITT acronym, as you alluded to.
And it all boils down to everybody working together, and they have to have this reciprocity of respect for each other.
Absolutely. I think from a growth standpoint, we've been fortunate to have a lot of growth over our 21-year period as a company, double digits for all those years. So it does take a complete team environment, team approach, and a highly engaged culture to make that happen.
But you and your wife, since you started together, and you said it was in your garage, how hard was it for you and her to let go of the control to trust other people?
That's a great question. I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs really get hooked up, is becoming micromanagers and just trying to hold on to too many things. And I've certainly been there. So to answer your question, it's very, very difficult to get out of that mold a little bit. But once I really started reading and studying in about 2011, that became a lot easier, and I've become much better at letting go.
And is that a necessity if you want to be successful?
Well, I think everybody's definition of success different, number one, but I would say yes, it's a necessity if you want to scale a business. Absolutely. No doubt that you have to be good at delegating, and you have to be good at putting the right people in place to be able to trust them just to go and do what they do best.
So tell us what your business was, and then we'll see if we can parlay that into understanding how we can use what you went through to help ourselves.
Yeah, so our business was and still is wholesale food service equipment and branded food programs. Primarily, we're best known for a branded chicken concept called Champ's Chicken inside supermarkets and convenience stores. So unlike a Chick-fil-A or a Bojangles or Popeyes or Church's, some of those that you may be familiar with, we have a high-quality fried chicken program that it goes inside supermarkets and convenience stores that can compete with those brands. That's essentially what got us to where we are.
How do you encourage people to love their job?
Well, I think number one, it starts by hiring the right people and having a really good hiring process. Prior to that, you have to have a well-defined culture. So those two things are important because you need to hire people that fit your culture. So in our case, that means a highly competitive person, somebody that likes change, somebody that's willing to continuously learn because the company is scaling. So those people have to be able to keep up with the growth of the company. They have to grow as individuals. So that, to me, that along with open book management and total financial transparency is how we've developed our highly engaged culture. We've been recognized nationally as a great place to work for 4 years in a row, and 94% of the people say it's a great place to work. So those are some great statistics that we're proud of.
So GRITT is an acronym, and what does it stand for?
GRITT is actually spelled G-R-I-T-T. So most people think I can't spell grit, but we actually added that last T for a reason. So it's goal-driven is what the G stands for, responsible. The I stands for involved. The first T stands for team. And the last T is, and I do think it's one of the most important, is tolerance of failure. Going along with
tolerance of failure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Going along with being successful, so many people think you get there, and man, you look at how successful that person is. And I've certainly got a lot of mentors as well. You look at those people, but you also recognize they had a lot of failures involved with getting there.
So I have a little story I like to tell about success and failure, and it has to do with a parable I made up of like a bee in the back window of a car. And he can see that clearly there's something else on the other side of the window, but as hard as he tries, he can't get through it. And so he can try and fail and fail and fail, and he won't get through it until he realizes there's another window behind him that he can go out and be out there. So how do you, using that as a way to explain my question, how do you know when your failures need you to look around and see what else is out there? Because if you keep thinking you got to go this way and keep failing, you're never going to succeed. If Edison had kept trying for that light bulb one way, he would have never had it. He had to try. There's a story about how many times he tried that thing, right, before he succeeded. So how did you do it?
Yeah, great analogy with the bee. I'll probably use that at some point. But the main thing I think is really important. I was very fortunate to come up in a home with a mother and a father that both supported me to do whatever I wanted to do, find something I'm passionate about, and just go after it. So I say that to say that even if you don't come from that upbringing, because I've met and seen people and know of stories that haven't had that upbringing that ultimately just get in the right mindset, that failure is what it takes, and to just keep putting yourself out there. And one of the biggest things I would recommend to people is get yourself, I have 3 daughters, I recommend this all the time, get yourself around people that have that positive mindset, because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. It is about grit, it's about perseverance, persistence, and just having that willpower to just keep moving.
How did you embrace technology? Because the technology in 1998 is so very different from today.
Oh, that's a great question. We love our technology. We've got a great technology team. In fact, we feel we're in our business with PFS Brands and even with GRITT Business Coaching. We we've embraced that, but we haven't invested in technology just to invest in technology. We know how that moves our company forward. So in our food service business, we know and we feel we're even light years ahead of some of the standalone competitors that we have out there.
When you were with the Fortune 100 companies, what was one of the greatest hurdles you had to overcome personally to help them?
To help who?
The Fortune 100 companies themselves.
Well, we were recognized as an Inc. 5000 company for 9 years in a row as one of the fastest growing companies. Actually haven't been associated with any Fortune 100.
Okay, so you don't serve as a consultant? I think that's what Robin's asking.
Oh yeah, for the Mid-America Dairymen, we were told.
Yeah, actually, Mid-America Dairymen was my first employer. I started with them as an intern in college, and actually worked for them right out of college. But what you may be referring to is some of the clients that we coach with GRITT Business Coaching, which is a company that has been formed based upon our success and things with PFS Brands. We ultimately branched out and created a coaching company to help people with employee engagement, implementing open book management if they want to, just creating that dynamic culture and creating a great place to work. So some of the things we do with that is, well, I mean, the first step is to come in and do an assessment. So that goes along with keeping score. That's a little bit what we mean in business. So many people in business, the owners hide all of this data and they hide all this information, which ultimately, it was a big aha moment for me in 2011 when I read a few books. And I was fortunate to grow up in kind of a business family, an entrepreneurial family, so I understood business. But the reality of it is 95% of the population really doesn't understand the rules of business. So what we do is we help them teach financial literacy and help them teach about business in general. So especially with millennials and those groups that are coming up today, they really want to know why they're doing what they're doing. And if you don't show them how business operates and how difficult it is and how they affect the numbers, they really are disengaged and they ultimately jump jobs.
It seems like the easy answer is that you'll be successful in business if you have something people want to buy, whether it's a service or a product. And if you just say, well, I have food, well, obviously everybody's going to buy food. And then if you narrow it down to chicken, you're going to say, well, many people like chicken. But you got to do something else. You can't just be that, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who've tried to be a chicken person, the next, Colonel Sanders or something, or the next Champs Chicken, for that matter. You guys are huge. How would you recognize how to, I guess, create an identity for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one of the analogies that I like to use, and one of my quotes is, we're not in the food business, we're in the people business. And that's something that we really live by here. We live by a core purpose of helping others become more successful in work and in life.
Yeah.
And when we do that with our employees and our employee owners today, because we are 100% employee owned, if we do that with them, and we've seen it, that just transcends over to our customers. They take so much better care of our customers when we're taking care of them. So that's really what we sell. I mean, even though we've got a great product, we're really selling our people and our services when it comes down to it.
How do you keep the CEOs and the owners from becoming just so comfortable that all of a sudden they become stale and they don't input into the business anymore, their thoughts?
Yeah, great question. I think that ultimately what we coach is to make sure that we, and really the thing that we serve as a coaching company is we do serve as that coach that holds those CEOs accountable. So we want our clients to be clients that are continuously wanting to learn and improve and improve their businesses. So we become that coach for them that helps hold them accountable. So we look for highly driven individuals that are ultimately non-ego driven that want to get better.
So
go ahead.
I have a question about your website. I went to pfsbrands.com, and I can, if I want, I can have my own private label. What does that mean?
Yeah, what that means is we work with a lot of chains. I'll just mention one that now we do not work with this chain, but you'll be familiar with Publix, for instance, in your area.
Okay.
So we could go to somebody like a Publix, and we may do 3, 4, 5 items in the background, and they're running their own brand, but we're actually supporting them with systems and processes, potentially
really?
sales.
So I would get
maybe some of our food products, etc.
See, we wonder that all the time as consumers. Like when you buy a store brand and it's a little bit cheaper than a brand name, and you compare it and you say this is exactly the same, that explains why. Now they're not always exactly the same, but now and then you find something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A good example of that I can use that's fairly common that everybody sees is milk. Milk is almost identical. In fact, we have a dairy facility right here in Jefferson City, and doesn't matter whether it comes out with the brand that they are producing or their private label. Ultimately, it's just running right down the line, and they change that label.
Is that right?
But to your point, there are occasionally specification differences in products, so there can be some differences. So it just varies product to product.
Is it better to have family members involved with a growing business, or should it be people from the outside?
Well, I don't know that one is better than the other because I know of both being successful. In fact, I'm involved with a group called the Tugboat Institute. That's a group of CEOs that are really purpose-driven CEOs, and a lot of my friends in that group are third generation, fourth generation. We even have one that's a sixth generation company, which is extremely rare.
Oh my!
So both can be successful. I think the real key is some type of succession planning. It doesn't matter what type of company you're in. We see so many companies out there that entrepreneurs have started that they end up having no succession planning, and ultimately those companies just go away. So that's not good for the state or the country. Or the economy.
You mentioned that it takes money to make money. We've heard that before. In most businesses, how do you determine which portion of your available money should go to the different aspects of investing in yourself? Obviously, the product has to have money in it, the equipment to make the product. The radio station is in the advertising business, and quite frequently, new restaurants in town or new car dealerships in town or whatever, they'll come to us to help get the word out about them. So our product is their purchase. They purchase our product to help them. Does the book, and I specifically want to make sure the listeners know about the book, it's called Keeping Score with Grit. So will that book help the reader who's got a business understand I guess this almost like a gamble when it comes to advertising?
Yeah, it talks a little bit about that. Really, to answer that question, I think the big encouraging thing in the book and that I would give to people would be that, make sure you, regardless of what size you are, make sure, again, you're putting yourself around other people. So I've been very diligent about making sure I had good financial advisors or, just good kind of a board of advisors or people in the industry that you can just bounce ideas off of. It really goes back to the initial thing that you started with. I'd like to say that we invented a lot of this stuff, but at the end of the day, we've just taken a lot of pieces and parts from some of the best thought leaders in the world and some of the best and most successful business people, and we've wrapped it up into our system. So it really, again, comes back to surrounding yourself with solid people. In many cases, that doesn't cost any money. I mean, these people, just like me, are willing to help and answer questions because they've been there and done it.
Well, it's like one of the things that we do, we have a very, I guess we consider ourselves ethical when it comes to selling ads, because we don't want to sell ads to somebody who we don't think our service is going to help. It'd be like asking us to sell a heater, in July. Don't spend your money to sell a heater in July. Nobody's going to buy it, and you're going to be wasting your advertising money. It's that kind of a thing, it sounds like you're talking about, the advice you get from people that they do not have a self-serving ulterior motive.
Yeah, so many people starting out, and even salespeople, make the mistake of wanting to sell everybody instead of really qualifying their prospects and making sure that it is a good fit. So certainly with us, we've learned over the years, we've made some mistakes, and But putting our brand, our Champs Chicken brand, or even Blue Taco that we have, that's a Mexican concept, we're so much more particular today, much like every franchise brand out there, on who we select to get into our franchisee group.
And
So that's important.
And how about the charities? Because businesses seem to be more successful if they donate their time or their expertise to some of the charities.
Yeah, we have one that's right here in our local county called the Super Sam Foundation that we've really gotten behind as a company and as an employee owner group, and that really has to do with finding a cure for childhood cancer. A local individual lost their 4-year-old son to childhood cancer, and that's just a group that it's a way to help others become more successful and hopefully find that cure for cancer. We've gotten behind that group as well as another group called the St. Clair Butterfly Foundation that takes some inner city kids around the Detroit area and helps them overcome some of the challenges and some of the things that they're dealing with in their home life that are unfortunate.
So we've done this for a long time, and the only reason I'm telling you that is because in listening to you talk now for maybe 20 minutes, you have done something that a lot of people can't do. You got us to trust you. And I always tell everybody, if you're going to be on the radio, you have to be yourself, and you have to give people a reason to trust you. If you're fixing cars, people got to know, I'm going to trust this person. And I think you've done that. So the book is going to help a lot of people in business, and I appreciate the fact that you wrote it and that you came on our show to talk about it. I found it on Amazon. It's called Keeping Score with Grit, and as Shawn mentioned, there are 2 T's in Grit, G-R-I-T-T. Straight Talk Strategies for Success. I did find it on Amazon. And do you have a website that you'd like to direct us to?
Yes, another website that you could look at is just my personal website is www.Shawn Burcham. That's spelled S-H-A-W-N, and the last name is spelled Burcham, B-U-R-C-H-A-M. So www.ShawnBurcham.com, and that will direct you to a lot of other places and give you a lot of information.
Oh, you're a good-looking guy. Look at that, bro. He's there, right there.
He's got a beautiful wife.
Oh, was that your wife? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm married up for sure.
So tell us something that you would advise against. What is one thing that people seem to like? Everybody wants to get rich quick. So are there any of those kind of things that you could say, whatever you do, you're in business, don't?
Well, let me give you a quote first. An overnight success takes a hell of a lot of work.
That's a good one.
And I don't believe in an overnight success, and so many people ask, what was that magic bullet? But I would say, don't think you know it all, and don't have an ego, and be a continuous learner.
So they're internal things. I didn't expect that. I was expecting you to tell us not to pay somebody to make decisions for you or that kind of thing, but maybe sometimes that is a good thing.
No, I think for me it would be all about self-awareness and being aware of other people's strengths and weaknesses, and in particular their strengths. Because you want people at the age of 10 inherently have their strengths, and they typically don't change through their lifetime. And some people are better at certain things, and I've made the mistake over the years of trying to get people who naturally are not good at things to do certain things. So it's more about finding the right person and then putting them in the right lane where they can excel when you begin to have employees.
Oh my gosh, you're a great teacher for business. Do you have children?
I do have 3 daughters, so 21, 19, almost 19, and 15.
Oh my gosh. Well, they've got a great dad. Hopefully they're listening to some of your thoughts on business. Let's see. Your website is ShawnBurcham.com. I found the book on Amazon. And tell us the business website again that I was looking at earlier with the
PFS.
Champs Chicken. Oh, yeah, PFS. Yeah.
www.PFS, that's Papa Foxtrot Sierra, PFS Brands.
Oh, you're a pilot.
I am a pilot.
Nice.
PFSbrands.com. Well, what an honor to get to speak to you, Shawn. Thank you so much for talking to us today. That was awesome.
All right. Thank you to both of you. Appreciate the time.
Really good, useful stuff. We'll take a break. Be right back. Time Out Billiards and Grill. That's right, Billiards and Grill. Located on Pine between the police department and Rawhide in Ocala.